We are recording, Mr. Mo.
All right, I'm ready.
I'm training my voice so I could start doing TV jingles, you know?
Oh, I miss a good jingle.
No, right? Like, I feel like, like, get in the zone, auto zone. Like, I
Yeah.
want to be like that guy. Like, that's like, you have to do very little work and they have to pay you for the rights, right? So, like, like a 10-year contract is worth quite a lot of money. So I could be that guy.
I wish I had a nice, deep Southern twang so I could sing the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Oh, what a beautiful tune, you know?
Right? You could always do the background voice though for the Folgers in your cup that goes like while the guy says it. So that
Yeah.
guy has
I mean,
nothing left.
who doesn't think that in their head when they're pouring a cup of Folgers,
Always.
you
But
know?
yeah, I think of the guy that works even less. I think of Folgers in your cup. That's what I think of. Like literally
Yeah, that's talent.
that's what I think of. So if you want to pursue the American dream, it's making the most money with doing the least amount of work possible. And that's what I learned from President Donald Trump. So God bless you, Mr. President.
Ooh.
Anyways, we're gonna do this in 3, 2, 1. What are you doing?
Testes in my mouth.
Get on the ground, you fucking pledge.
Ew.
Welcome to the greatest podcast experience of your life. This is the Frat Chat Podcast.
All young men like 3 things. Food, booze, pussy.
Featuring Carlos Garcia and Chris Moore.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the greatest podcast in the history of podcasts in time. It's the Frat Chat Podcast. I'm Carlos Garcia with CMO Moore. How's it going, Mr. Mo?
What's up, man? I'm good. You know, I just got back from the gym and I take those C4 energy drinks and it makes me and
Yeah.
I feel like do you ever take those at the gym?
Good, but it like honestly made me tweak out too hard.
Oh my
And
gosh,
now
it makes my
I
ears
hate
tingle.
it. Yeah, that's not good.
I feel like my skin feels like it's crawling and my ears tingle. That's when I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't finish this like extra large can of C4.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. It like honestly just made my body feel like it was like tingling too much. That's like a good way to describe it. Uh, but no way, dude. It just I don't need it. I just put on a little Metallica and I'm on my way. The meathead takes over. Uh, and then I start
That's
putting up the reps,
We
brother.
have so much in common. You put on Metallica and I put on metallic eyeshadow. It's like we're the same person.
Same thing. Same
Yeah.
exact thing. Oh man. So the listeners and the people liked us opening with them. So we're gonna start this week again with a week 2 of emails from the listeners, you guys, because now I'm checking. Now I am in the zone. I am checking the inbox. So shoot us an email to fratchatpodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions, anything nice to say, anything mean to say, any episode suggestions. We will take everything into consideration. And again, we only reveal first names and, country or state, whatever you put down that you want. You don't even have to put a country or state, but at least give us a first name. So, we're not strangers. You're stranger danger, motherfuckers. Write that down. So anyways, would you like to go first on this week's email?
Sure. Ladies first. So actually I didn't get this from an email. I got this from our Instagram like
Uh,
messages.
So, Rich, you can also shoot us an email or not an email, a message, a DM, slide up in there, Frat Chat Podcast. You can go on Instagram, you can do it on Facebook. Which no, like if you do it on Facebook, I don't know, maybe shout out somewhere else because Facebook inboxes are annoying as shit to check. But I will do it for you guys. But you can also to do it to any other channels,
I feel
Threads,
like
Instagram, whatever.
I feel like I'm not old enough to like commit to Facebook. I feel like all my older friends, like my sister and her friends, that they're all on Facebook, whereas like all the younger crew are on Instagram.
But and the thing is with like Facebook messaging, like accounts that are not people, it's they goes to like a whole separate fucking thing because Meta has like their business page and it's just annoying as shit. It doesn't you don't just get like a simple like DM. You have to go and remember to check back there. So I don't know. It's definitely made for old people. I will say that. Absolutely. But anyways, Mr. Mo, you're gonna start us off
Well, there was a
with
few messages that I thought about, but I picked this one because he's from Maryland, and we're from Maryland, you know. So this is Justin from Maryland, and he
just
wrote,
now.
"When isn't Chris hungover for a recording? Does he have a problem? Maybe try rehab." Laughing emoji. I'm not hungover today. I wish I was. I like to party, you know. But I would say to Justin from Maryland, thank you for your concern. Thank you for your comments. I would say that my drinking very well might be problematic. It's probably a coping mechanism with a lot of stress and a heavy dose of depression. So I guess my question for you, Justin, is how do you cope with your recently failed marriage? Because I followed your account on Instagram. I took a deep dive, and it looks like you've lost a couple of teeth recently from a drunken bender. So maybe we have a lot in common. Well, which rehab should we go to? Maybe we can get a 2 for 1 special. I don't know. Maybe they can also incorporate a heavy dose of cardio in your treatment plan to help with another recent problem you've developed, and which is maybe a contributing factor to why your wife left you. And then maybe um, uh, down the road, when you're making healthier decisions, you can get some visitation back in your rotation with your kiddos that it looks like you don't really post a lot about anymore. So thank you for your concern, and I'm going to double down with some concern for you too. Thank you.
Wow. So thank
What's
you
your
for
next
writing us.
question, Justin?
Thank you for writing us, Justin, and listening. We really appreciate you here at the Brad Chat Podcast. Ooh. Woo. Well,
Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. That's what I have to say.
wow. Yeah, I promise that I will try to be nicer to you guys than that was.
I define a new follower at the gym to replace someone that I think we just lost. Whoops.
Oh, wow. Anyways, as far as mine, I got this one from good old Rob, who just put USA. So keep on rocking in the USA. I was gonna say keep on rocking in the free world, but I don't know. It's getting tough out there. Anyways, he said, "Dear Frat Chat guys, I'm a longtime listener that just got back to listening to the show. Glad to see you guys are still on the air." And I don't know how to take that one. He puts an exclamation point, so I'm gonna read it as positive, like glad to see you guys are still on the air, as opposed to see like glad to see you guys are still in the air, like how did you fucking make it here?
I
But
think it's positive.
I think it sounds positive based on. But anyways, he goes, I love your college stories from the earlier seasons. Here comes the question. If you had to think of the dumbest thing you did during college that you would take back now, what would it be? Oof. Uh, I can actually, the funny thing is, I can probably think of CMO's before I think of mine's, and I'm going to take a stab at it. And it's CMO chasing a bird, which lead to him breaking not one, but both of his feet and being in a wheelchair while drunk in Ocean City. That is
No,
my.
but that's not it. Mine is eating a lot of snatch. I don't know
Ah!
what I was thinking is trying to fit in, and if I can go back in time, ugh, gross.
You would rather still break both of your feet at the same time and be in a wheelchair and be all useless for fucking months than eating vagina?
Like, there's no bigger low in a gay man's life than being like face deep in like a hairy, stinky muck.
Well, yeah, that's why you tell the ladies you got to shave down there. They come
You ever
out.
you ever been with a squirter?
I personally have not, but I have friends that have, and in my opinion, that's just pee. I'm just saying.
Let me tell you,
It's been tested.
like I've had quite an eventful life, and nothing's more traumatic to me than getting squirted on in your
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, no, I would die. I honestly, no offense, ladies.
When it was an act you don't even wanna participate in anyway, you know what I mean?
The thing is, like, I know our lady listeners, which we do have some. Surprisingly, 40% of our listeners are ladies. They're gonna get upset when I say this, but that is pee. And I have put it to the test because see, my friend who shall not be named on this very pod, I can tell you off air, dated a squirter, and we were curious, you know. So, what's one way to find out if it's pee? What is the one food item that if you guaranteed to eat it, it changes your pee color? Asparagus, baby. And we went to formal.
Color or scent?
This changes the scent. It makes it smell. You
Mhm.
eat asparagus, it makes your pee smell. And so then we went to dinner, and she had the asparagus.
You know,
And
I
then
don't like
later
the
that
way
night,
that I don't like
he
the way
came
that peas ugh. Ugh.
and then he said, "It smelled like asparagus." And that's
I
when we knew squirters are just peers.
I don't like the way pea smells after a lot of coffee either. I think that changes the scent as well. You
Well,
know,
because you're all dehydrated.
I've been in a couple car accidents in my life where I've gotten a little bit of whiplash, but nothing gave me worse whiplash than getting a squirt in the face and going, "Oh, oh!" You know? "What is that?
Seriously, that's
What was
exactly
that?"
how it happened. Like, make it stop. Oh, what in my mouth? Oh.
Blah. Yuck, yucky.
Oh god, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Well,
You know, I have one thing that I do regret, just piggyback off of yours. I stole a pledge book from someone in Sigma Pi at the
oh,
library,
got that boy.
and I gave it to our fraternity president as a gift, and I was so proud of myself. I was like covert ops, went in there. I put a bag on top of the book, and I was like chatting with them, whatever. And then when I picked my bag up, I screwed the book out from under it. So like it was, I just thought I was so sneaky. And I heard through the grapevine that that guy got the shit paddled out of him, and I felt so bad. But,
Oh,
like, I mean, to be fair, it was fair game. If you didn't protect your pledge book,
no!
every fraternity was looking for it.
Everybody was gonna
Ours
steal it.
too. We got ours taken, so,
Yeah,
um,
and by our own people too. Our own brothers would, if they saw, they would take it, and then they would do a whole thing just so you would rat yourselves out.
they would hide it in the library.
Well, they would tell you they would hide it in the library, but they really had them all along. So you would search the fucking library, but they're like, we're not gonna fucking leave it in the library for somebody to find. And then when you didn't find it, we hazed you, and eventually maybe we returned it. But I was like, oh, you evil bastards. But yeah, it was fair game. However, that is what turned out to be notoriously one of the worst fraternities on campus as far as hazing goes. Not only just with like physical paddling stuff, but also the gay stuff, as the guy last week described it
So you're
as.
telling me that I pledged the wrong fraternity?
And that's right.
Damn it.
That's right. You could have been happy, Simo.
Yeah.
You could have been amongst blood brothers or paddle brothers, I should say. But anyways, that was letters from the listener, which I guess we'll call it letters. But no, not really letters, because one's an email and the other's a DM.
Well, the ones I've read have just been mean things. Let's just call it mean things from jackasses. I'm glad you enjoy the podcast, but like, come
I am
on.
nice, you know. So so half and half. So we keep it neutral, just because. But anyways, I do have a little news story here, Mr. Mo, that you sent me that's been making waves on social media. And I like to fact check stuff because we did get got a couple seasons ago by this story about some chick that tattooed herself or something. And then we put it on, and it turned out that it was all bullshit. And that she, it was a fake tattoo that she did for publicity or some bullshit. But anyways,
Yikes.
I like to fact check things now to make sure this never happens again. And when you sent me this little story that's been circulating on social media now, I said there is not a chance in hell that this is true. But since they did include a mugshot, I said, let me give it the benefit of the doubt. And I Googled the shit. And Mr. Mo, it turned out to be true as hell because Timmy, hey, oh, my throat's fucking asshole.
I think we should find a new Timmy.
Hey, okay, that worked. What are you doing? What are you looking at me like that? He's actually upset at me for waking him up. Yeah, we've been recording for 25. I need you to hit the goddamn news track, buddy. Yes, dude. Dude, open your fucking Oh my god, this guy is.
This is a 2-hour commitment once a week. That's it. That's all we ask for.
Yeah. Are you ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, 3, 2. This happened actually. Was recorded in February 2022. But it is a true story. A teacher in Livingston Parish, Louisiana, was arrested for lacing cupcakes for her students, and she faced a sentence of 41 years in prison, which sounds a little extreme until you find out what these cupcakes were laced with.
LSD?
Oh, I think.
Because that would have been a rad fucking teacher.
Yeah, I think the kids and everybody who.
Sign me up for that class.
Yeah, I think they wish. No, it wasn't LSD. It was a home recipe by her husband called his semen. Yes, SEMO.
Ooh. Sign me up for that class. Was he attractive? I'm just kidding. That's horrible. Why would anyone have that idea?
Right? Like, what the fuck, dude?
This is you think back in time, like, how many cupcakes did I eat in school? Or how many of them were laced with fucking cum?
Here's the picture of the guy. And the lady, here's the thing. She is attractive, but he looks like a fucking penis. He looks like the semen came out of his forehead. Like, but
he looks like white trash. She looks like she would fight a bitch in like a McDonald's like drive-through line. You know what I mean?
That's absolutely right. So apparently the Associated Press reports that Cynthia Perkins, that's the lady if you want to Google them, and her now ex-husband, Dennis Perkins, were both arrested in October 2019 and charged with 2 counts of first-degree rape, 60 counts of producing porn involving a juvenile under the age of 13, and with a slew of other child sex crime charges. Cynthia was reportedly a teacher in Livingston Parish, while her husband, Dennis, was a Livingston Parish Sheriff's deputy at the time of their arrest. Holy shit. Of course, Dennis was fired by the department after his initial arrest, and Cynthia resigned from her position as a teacher shortly after her arrest as well. Initially, the former teacher pled innocence to her various child sex crime charges, but now has reached a plea deal with prosecutors and pled guilty to 3 of the charges. Per her plea agreement, she reportedly admits she assisted her husband in sexually assaulting a juvenile, helped her husband film a juvenile bathing, and also admitted to lacing cupcakes with her then husband's sperm before feeding them to school children. Ugh. She also agreed to testify against her former husband. Apparently, she also filed for divorce after the fact. saying she was manipulated by him into committing the child sex crime. Sure, buddy. And her attorney reportedly maintains that the husband was the mastermind.
Like, why
Prosecutors
would like?
reported
I just don't understand why. Like, what are we trying to accomplish with that? Like, that's just also just sounds like a lot of effort to do something gross.
well,
Like,
that's the thing, and it's like not just it's not just the one thing with the cupcakes. It's bathing the fucking kid and videotaping it and making what the fuck? Like, it's not like she, oh man, your husband got you hammered or something, and somehow convinced you to do this one thing. It's like you doing things over and over, and they're disgusting things. It's like, come on, dude, come on.
it's just
But
people are twisted.
At least, for example, prosecutors reportedly say the 68 charges Cynthia did not plead guilty to will be dismissed, but she still faces a 41-year prison sentence. So we shall see.
I give them both a chair. That's gross.
That is so fucking weird. And something that you did point out, that you brought up, that we brushed by was, how do we know that none of those cupcakes that people brought to school back in the day, how do we know that frosting wasn't homemade?
We don't know.
Like, how would you know what a cum cake tastes like?
You know, I
So
I
there's cum cakes or cum cups. Cum in a cup. I don't know. We got to market that.
I think that if I was like part of the school district and after hearing the story, I'd be like, all right, guys, like, I'm sorry, but this point forward, any snacks that comes into any kid's classrooms have to be individually wrapped. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those of you who like to bake. Continue baking, but you just can't bring those baked goods to no more like baked goods like what do they call them when little kids like sell the like little like cookie
The
stands?
stands? Yeah.
Like, no more of that, guys. Sorry. Like, if you want to sell Rice Krispie treats, they have to be individually wrapped from the box, but no more like bringing in like baked goods. Sorry, guys, but someone ruined it for everyone
Totally.
else. You know?
Totally. I don't even want to fucking ever go to a goddamn bake sale ever again. Fuck that. Fuck that. Especially to school. Some weirdo. And here's the thing: I feel like I'd be more worried about it in private schools than public schools. Because rich people are more fucking weird into that shit. you know, there's
Yeah.
always some rich weird asshole who's fucking like some sadistic fuck. You know, who's into that shit. I feel like you're more likely to find him and his kid in a private school setting than you would just would in a public school. And that's just me. Don't come after me, rich people. I'm not saying you're doing it, but maybe you know someone who is.
Don't they both look like the type that would like knock on your door at 3 in the morning, and be like, "Hey, my car broke down. Can you come in and use your phone?" Do you know what I mean? Like, sketchy as
Yeah,
fuck.
fucking rape
I
you and
just don't
kill
understand,
you.
like, who comes up with an idea? Do you think that maybe one day he ate some pineapple and she was going down on him and she's like, "This is the best tasting semen I've ever had. Like, we should share this with the world." Like, how does this come up in conversation?
Oh my god, this tastes just like vanilla pineapple frosting. This is amazing. We gotta share it with the world, honey. Come on. So you don't gotta tell me twice.
Goodness gracious.
I've been jerking off into tubs for weeks, honey, and saving it in the freezer just in case you said this.
Ugh. Ugh.
Remember
Like,
that ice cream cake you like so much? Yeah, that was on me.
I have friends that would like, they will make weed butter. Like, they'll melt butter and they put weed in it and then they strain the weed out of it and they keep a tub of weed butter in the freezer. But if I
Fuck
were to
that.
open up someone's freezer and they had a tub of semen, I'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Even gay people would be like, oh, that's gross.
Just 1 teaspoon a day keeps the doctor away.
Oh, that's
Oh,
exactly why. Like, you know how people love to eat steak and love to eat the fat on steak because it
yeah.
has so much flavor? I
Right.
can't eat fat on any meat because it makes me think of like cum guzzling.
Nah, I can't fucking unsee that, unthink that.
Or like
Good
swallowing
lord.
a loogie. Oh, I hate the consistency of like fat. All my meat has to be lean.
Yeah, or I'll chew it up and spit it out. I'm a spitter.
Yeah,
Spitters, quitters.
you look like that type. I knew it.
So to everybody that had the cupcakes, let us know how they were. Maybe they were fantastic. Maybe you went for seconds. I don't know. Shoot us an email, fratchatpodcast@gmail.com. Maybe they were finger licking good. Maybe you got chlamydia. I don't know. Let us know. Very
Ugh.
curious to
Ugh.
find out. Good
People are
God.
so disappointing.
Mhm. Anyways,
But they look like they would do that. I mean, let's just be fair. Like whenever I see someone like Jared Fogle, when stories come out about him, I'm like, guys, are we surprised? Look at him. He looks like a creepo. He just looks like it. And this is another situation where he looks like a creep. Harvey Weinstein looks like he would be a creepo. What's
he
that?
looks like for sexual
Ep-
assault.
Epstein, not Einstein. Epstein looks like a creep.
Yeah.
Like they all look like creeps.
They have something in the eyes, especially Weinstein and Epstein. If you look at their eyes, kind of these squinty dark eyes.
Even like guys are gonna hate me for saying this, but Donald Trump looks like he can't keep his hands to himself.
Absolutely. He
I'm
already
sorry, he just
tells
looks
us.
the type.
He literally told us. I don't even ask. Okay, believe me. I just go in and just grab him by the pussy. Okay, they just let me. Okay, believe me. Cause I'm rich. Okay. It's like, come on. He already told us this amount.
Yeah.
He fucking
Ooh.
loves grabbing
Yeah.
women on the puss. And yeah, yuck indeed, dude. He totally looks the type, but they look past that, you know. And it's like, and not to like for example, Clinton, you could tell he was a fucking womanizer too. You
Yeah.
know, you just knew. You look at him playing his fucking sax over there with the Sonnies. You know, you knew that man. you, you knew that man wasn't just going home to Hillary. That's ridiculous. Or JFK with Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday" to him. It's like you knew he was hitting that.
Yeah, of course.
Like, come on. Come on. So, don't come at us. Donald's not the only one to do it, but Donald's definitely the ugliest one to do it. I'll tell you that much.
Did you hear that story that they found a bunch of sex toys in the nightstand of Richard Nixon?
No way, really?
I'm just kidding. But he looks like he would, right? Doesn't he look like he'd have a little butt plug or two?
I'm wearing it right now, Chris.
Yeah.
I am not a
Anywho,
crook. Right up the
yeah, he looks like
ass.
that type.
When the president does it, it's not illegal. It's just super sexual. Now come on and suck my butt plug, gay boy.
Yo, whatever I have to do for my country, I'll do it.
That's right. Anyways, Mr. Mo, it is time to get to it. Because this week we have a fun one. We have a good one. This week we have another controversial one. We're going to talk about celebs, baby. Celebs that hated each other. And here's the thing. This isn't just celebs that hated each other walking down the street. No. These are celebs that hated each other that had to work together every single day. Of course. You know what these things lead to? An explosion. So this week, we're going to talk about celebrity feuds on set right here at the Frat Chat Podcast. And it's going to be a good one. Because goddamn, I didn't realize just how much some celebs hated each other.
There's a lot to choose from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this one might have to be another one that we revisit. So Again, if there's any we miss, any you like that you want us to cover in the future, shoot us an email, fratchatpodcast@gmail.com. And, maybe be nice about it. Unlike the ones CMO reads.
Yeah.
And we'll try our best. But anyways, why don't you start us off, Mr. Mo? Let's
Well,
talk some feuds, baby.
this is an easy one, and to be honest, um, I would have liked to have watched this, but there's a movie back in the day called The Outsiders. You've heard of it?
Yes,
A lot of
classic
big names in it.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Let's see. Let me just do the full cast, just because. Outsiders cast. You have Matt Dillon.
Hmm.
We had Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid. You had Patrick Swayze. You had
Hmm.
Emilio Estevez.
Hmm.
Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who did The Godfather. And it had the two that Mr. Mo is going to talk about right now.
Yeah, that's Tom Cruise and Rob Lowe. So it was during a mock brawl on the set of this movie where Rob Lowe accidentally punched Tom Cruise in the face. And then Tom Cruise wanted to get in his own hit. When we were young, we called him licks, like get a good lick in. He wanted to get his own hit, so he did. And then there was a quick brawl, and then it was like quickly broken up. But I would have paid money to see that short king get his face pounded because I think
And
that
no,
Tom
this
Cruise is such an
was
annoying little twit.
Yeah, but apparently you're gonna be disappointed. And actually, this was Tom Cruise before he got famous, and more famously before he got his dental surgery that dramatically improved his appearance.
He had
Because
braces.
not even he had them weird buck teeth in that movie, where
Yeah,
not even he didn't need to take a punch to look like he got punched in. Let me tell you
yeah.
that. But I did look into this fight as well, and you'll be disappointed to hear that Rob Lowe, even though he admits he got that one good shot in, says that in actuality Tom Cruise was like way tougher than him and would have probably whooped his ass if it hadn't gotten broken in. And it was basically like Tom Cruise was kind of crazy, man. Like he was like really into the fighting. And honestly, Tom Cruise is a badass man. I know he's insane because of the whole Scientology thing, but like some of the stunts and the things that he does for Mission Impossible and just in his day to day life are insane. Like he did this thing where he was hanging out on the outside of a plane while the plane was legitimately taking off. That was him. He did another thing like on a fucking motocross bike, jumping off a giant mountain and then letting go of the bike and fucking falling off the mountain and then letting go of the goddamn parachute. And then he did another one where he was literally just sitting on top of a plane, like with his leg up, on the wing as the plane is flying like 50 fucking thousand feet in the air, and he's just like, "Hi, this is Tom Cruise. Welcome to the movies." And it's not a green screen; it's just fucking him because he's goddamn crazy, and he's like 60 something at this point. So
I think when you have a
you
lot
have
of
to give him
pent up gay sexual frustration, you do things like that.
goddamn, but
Just
the
saying.
boy's got balls. I have to say, it makes his movies very believable, at least. Where when Tom Cruise is doing those Mission Impossible movies, I can't hate on him because he does his own stunts. So those movies have very little CGI in them, which is wild, very wild.
I can
So
hate on him for what he said about Brooke Shields and her postpartum depression. And he
what did he
doesn't believe in like antidepressants. He's a fucking weirdo. He doesn't do anything for the mental health community. And Scientology, I mean, come on, guys, like get with it.
dude,
It's a
we were
cult.
actually our show not too long ago was two buildings over from the Scientology building. Did you catch that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, dude. The venue literally in the city was two doors down. Like if you had what depends which side you went to, but when you left, but if from the front doors, if you exit right, literally two doors over, it's the Scientology building, and like the people are there dressed almost like they're ready for tours to give tours to people, and they fucking look weird, dude. Like you can just tell they're
Yeah.
just weird in that. I kind of want to take a tour, but I just know like that's how they get me, you know.
They're gonna ask you for your ID. They can do a whole background check, and they're going to infiltrate your email, your social media, and you're
Totally.
gonna be getting like pamphlets in the mail all day, every day, asking for money.
To be fair, if I could be in the next Mission Impossible movie, maybe it'd be worth it. I'm just saying.
Okay, I get that. I get that. Anywho, what's your first one?
So my first one, ladies and gents, boys and girls, children of all ages, is let's see. Sorry, my story is one that honestly would be a WWE dream match if it ever were to happen. But this one got real petty instead of very physical. And it's Vin Diesel versus The Rock, or as the people know him, Dwayne Johnson. And now this one happened primarily from tensions on the set of the Fast and the Furious franchise. The two actors reportedly had a difficult time working together during the filming of The Fate of the Furious in 2017. The Rock, who is known for his larger than life personality and work ethic, expressed frustrations with some of his co stars' behaviors, particularly Vin Diesel, who's also a producer in the franchise. The Rock posted a now famous message on Instagram calling out unnamed co stars for their, I quote, candy ass behavior.
Ooh, is that like gay?
No, that's just something The Rock says. It's just, you're being a candy ass jabroni. You shut your mouth. You know, it's just like, yeah.
I know, but it just sounds like you're saying they're a little light in the loafers. You know what I mean? Or like,
Yeah. I mean, they're a little soft. Yeah. Which many assumed, of course, was aimed at Vin Diesel. Then in return, Vin Diesel felt reportedly that Johnson's comments were unprofessional and damaging to the family-like atmosphere he strived to maintain on set. Because, of course, the Vin Diesel loves family. Because it's all about family. So don't you forget it, CMO. Hashtag family.
is that his real voice, you think?
No, he actually talks like this. Hey!
Yeah, I would assume so.
Lopez!
Otherwise, he needs to check his vocal nodes.
It's me, Vin! Are you ready for some strawberry mocha frappuccinos?
Yeah.
Come on! Ew, I got grease in my hands. I am Groot. So there are rumors circulating that Diesel and Johnson had conflicting leadership styles. With Vin Diesel wanting more control and the Johnson being more independent. Now, despite their tensions, both actors have since publicly stated that they've resolved their issues, and Diesel expressed that they had made peace over time. However, Johnson decided to step away from the main Fast and the Furious series after Furious 7 and instead focused on the spin-off film Hobbs and Shaw with the one and only Jason Statham, which is a classic one. It's a pretty good movie. But yes, will they work together again? We don't know. But they seem not to hate each other as much. However, I'm not gonna lie, that's one that I would have loved to see them coming to blows, because it was kind of like the whole tease of when The Rock was added to the Fast and Furious movies. You got to see The Rock versus Vin Diesel, and it was like, "Let's go, brother! Men slapping meat! Oh yeah!" So I was all for that. I wish they would have done it. I wish they would have teased. Which I think, at the end of the day, they could have done it. Maybe a WWE thing. That could have been fun. They should have done that.
Yeah, they should have.
That's just me.
There's still time.
That's right. But anyways, who you got next?
Next up, I'm not really a big fan of Steven Seagal. He's like 6'4". He's a big guy, and a very talented fighter, but he kind of like flexes his muscles a little too hard. With John, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Leguizamo.
Leguizamo is the man.
Um, so John Leguizamo, he was, like Luigi in the original Mario Brothers movie, and um, he had a lot of really like iconic roles back in the day. He
Yep.
also inspired me to do my solo show back in the day in Chicago because he had a couple solo shows that he's done that are like super popular, and he's just a very talented actor. So anyway, um, apparently, like they were doing a movie together, and apparently Seagal came into rehearsal for the film, saying, "I'm in command. What I say is law." And then John like laughed, and Seagal replied by slamming John into a wall with an Aikido elbow. Like kind of just like slammed him against the wall.
And
What
here's
the
the
fuck is
thing:
that?
Steven Seagal is a widely known fucking asshole. Not only was he the worst of the action heroes, he had like maybe one or two good movies, but everything else is fucking bullshit. He is honestly like the Donald Trump of the martial artists. He kind of looks like him a little bit. He's like a fat, overweight white guy. He greatly exaggerates everything that he does. Because if you look at Aikido and you look at some of the shit he does, especially like the demonstration now are like the most like bullshit martial arts ever. It's like basically dudes come running at him and he'll like twist his hand and twist their fucking wrist a little bit and they like go flying. And it's clearly bullshit. And it's like, I mean, I'm not saying I could kick his ass, but well, maybe now I could. In his prime, I'm not saying I could have kicked his ass, but I'm sure a lot of real martial artists could fuck up Steven Seagal. And he has been called out by several of them, and I don't believe he ever answered the call. So I think that answers that.
I
But
I
of course, he would punk out John Leguizamo, but he was also notorious for doing it to extras and like the people in fight scenes who were just like background guys. He would like really punch them in the face and like actually hurt them. And it's like, dude, that is so unprofessional. Like, and you as like the main star in this fucking movie and like supposedly the martial arts expert should fucking know better than try to look like a goddamn tough guy just because you have like a fucking receding hairline at 26 years old. Come on,
yeah.
dude. So he's a fucking asshole. He can suck a dick.
I think the movie was called Executive Decision and also had maybe I think Halle Berry was in it and maybe Kurt Russell. So
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if this
He's
is all
like
legit, if
weird
this
with
is
his lady.
yeah. So I don't know if anything's been like I don't know if he's ever been convicted, but I know that he's been accused of like sexual harassment and assault on like many occasions. So I don't think this story of him fighting with a co-star is like that far fetched. And I think that John in an interview said something along the lines of like, "Yo, he taekwondoed my ass against a brick wall," and it's just uncalled for. And I don't know. I just don't like big bullies. He's like over 6 feet, 6'4", 6'5". Like it's not fair to pick on like a little guy. You know what I mean? Like just
Oh,
shows a lot about your
exactly, and that's
character.
what he does. Yeah, it shows that he's a bitch. Like, pick on someone your fucking own size. Or
Yeah.
shit. And someone, John Leguizamo is like fucking 5'3". Like, he's teeny. So, and that's what he would also do it to the background actors and shit because they can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to complain to? This is the big opportunity in some cases to even be on fucking film, and they can't quit. So, he knew who to pick these fucking fights with, and no, it's horseshit. So it would have been my dream to be able to fucking punch him in the head. So, but like, notice the correlations between him and Trump, even the sexual assault thing. He does some weird shit with, uh, even some even like with Katherine Heigl is one of them where
Oh
she like
really?
refuses to work with him. Yeah, when she was young, one of her first movies was with him. I think she was 16, and he was like super touchy and weird.
Ugh.
And if you listen to him speak, he really thinks that he is like the greatest thing to God's green earth. And he kind of talks like this, all right? Which is kind of similar to the Donald Trump here, okay? Okay, believe me. But the Donald Trump's a little higher up and he kind of a little more bullshitty. Meanwhile, Steven Seagal really takes himself more seriously, so you got to bring it down to here. And this is me, Steven Seagal, the world's greatest fighter. and greatest lover.
I
And I
don't know
don't know
about
if you know,
that.
this is a true story. I once released a reggae album, which sold very well. It was a very fantastic album. And I opened up a song calling I Want the Punani. True story. Look it up. Google it. Steven Seagal, reggae album. But yeah, he is a piece of shit. He sucks. And everything he talks about, it's like he's the greatest fighter. How like he helped teach UFC fighters like these kicks and shit that they used in fights. It's like oh the worst. It's like come on, dude. And he's like the thing is like he's also older now and he's extremely out of shape, but he'll still go everywhere wearing his like martial arts robe, his gi, but it literally just looks like a fat guy in a moo and his hairline, which, like I said, was deteriorating when he was like early on in his career. So now you can tell it's clearly like painted on to some degree. And he gave himself like a widow's peak, which is like, you didn't have a widow's peak. Why did you give yourself a widow's peak? No one who fucking has a widow's peak wants a fucking widow's peak.
I have one and I
You
don't
know?
want it.
Yeah, like who the fuck chooses to have a widow's peak? And he has a
Yeah.
permanent one. He looks like a Japanese cartoon character. So yeah, he's just the way. I could
Looks
literally
like
do
a
it out.
vampire to me. Like a cheap, like wannabe Dracula,
Totally.
but like a
Totally.
heavy set one.
That's right. One that sucked a little too much blood.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, Steven
Anywho,
Seagal.
he's an asshole. I'm Team John. What's next on your list?
All right. So this next one, which shout out to ultimateclassicrock.com. They gave a really good account on this whole story, which I'm mostly going to read from right now. Because this was a cool story. And honestly, they told it so well that I felt that it would be almost disrespectful to summarize it. So, again, for the full thing, which I'm going to take, a lot of it. So you might not even need to, but ultimateclassicrock.com has this whole story. And this is a little known fight, the only fight to ever happen, which is surprising to actually consider how pressure cooked of an environment it is. But the first and only fist fight to ever happen on the set of Saturday Night Live, which took place on February 18th, 1978. And it was when former cast member Chevy Chase returned to the show and found new cast member, the one that many called the new Chevy, waiting for him with closed fists, ready to settle some old scores. And of course, the new member is a little character you might guys know, known as Bill Murray. Oh, yeah. So, for a little background on this one, Chevy Chase was unquestionably, at the beginning of the show, one of the biggest success to come out of it. He was the show's initial star.
Yeah.
He became recognizable. He was the face of the signature Weekend Update show, which still is a thing they do now with Colin Jost and what's his name, Michael Che. And he basically was the show's centerpiece, according to many of the viewers. And so you add that to the fact that he was very charismatic and he became a very favorite of producer Lorne Michaels, which added to, a little bit of resentment that some cast members quickly got tired of him kind of being like the star. John Belushi is especially said to have resented the former National Lampoon co-star, feeling not without reason that his superstar status in the National Lampoon Radio Hour and stage hit Lemmings should have carried over into this new, much more visible launching pad. And Chevy Chase, for his matter, didn't help matters, gradually becoming enamored by his press. And as the 1970s fame staple cocaine entered the SNL offices, unbearably egocentric with his fellow cast members. The tensions was, of course, made worse by the media, seeking heat in the strange new late night comedy series, began elevating Chase's profile. And An early magazine article about the show focused so squarely on Chase at the expense of the rest of the cast members that Lorraine Newman, Jane Curtis, and Gilda Radner, who'd been condescendingly referred to as Chevy's girls in the piece, co-penned a girl group style musical number where the three performers crooned their fawning adoration at Chevy Chase, with their lyrics fairly dripping with unadorned sarcasm. Now, you fast forward to Chevy Chase leaves SNL after the show's first season to seek his big screen success in Hollywood, which at first left the cast a little bit relieved, but then also a little concerned because the show depended on him. But the show did very well. However, you fast forward to this night, and Chevy Chase was hosting the show. And, people obviously were very apprehensive of him. Bill Murray, of course, was added to the cast in the second season when Chevy Chase left, and he was kind of being billed as the new Chevy type thing. Like they wanted him to kind of be the new guy, which of course is going to lead to some things. So, in their harrowing depiction of the events leading up to what has become the most infamous punch-up in SNL history, authors Doug Hill and Jeff Weingrad, in their 1986 backstage tome Saturday Night, they say that the blame is spread around pretty evenly in the fight. Chevy did himself no favors in coming back to SNL with an entitled, even arrogant air, widely attributed to an inflated ego and, like I said, a growing coke habit. Even demanding that that's not going to be good. Demanding that current Weekend Update anchor Jane Curtin be bumped from her position for the night, saying, "Jane, let's face it, you can't be on the screen with me at the same time," which is, set this in Lorne Michaels' office. Another player in the simmering conflict was John Belushi, who most agreed was pretty resentful that Chevy was making a return. And then, of course, it became clear, apparently, that Chase's bad reputation was Bill Murray's to fix. Because apparently he was, according to Bill Murray, he said, I was the new guy, and it was sort of like it was my job to do that. It would have been too petty for someone else to do it. It's almost like I was goaded into it. So apparently, Bill Murray says that John Belushi goaded him to him swinging at Chevy Chase. So you have the night going. Chevy Chase is about to do his monologue. This is literally like right before the show goes live. So I mean, note that like this is season 2, so I know it's probably hectic now, but I can't imagine how hectic it would have been in the earlier days when you didn't quite really know what you had there. And basically, you had, let me get into the interesting post. You basically had them, Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, coming at each other. At one point, even Bill Murray told Chevy Chase that he needed to go fuck his wife more because they had marital problems. And so, like I said, right before the cold open came in, Chevy Chase is prepared to literally be Henry Ford, the president. And instead, he's out there in full costume, and he found Bill Murray in John Belushi's dressing room. And then they called each other out, and then they ended up getting into a hallway scuffle with both guys throwing fists, which the hilarious thing about it is that most of those fists ended up hitting John Belushi, who stirred up the pot to try to get it going in the first place. But he gets into it along with some other people trying to break it all up. But they ended up punching mostly John Belushi. But as they're getting pulled apart, Bill Murray started yelling to Chevy Chase that he was a medium talent, and I quote, which, is taking a shot at his ego. And which at the time, I mean, it doesn't seem like a big of a burn, but after a big fight like that with somebody dressed like Henry Ford, and you get slapped in the face, and someone calls you a medium talent when you're all cooked out, that probably hurts your soul. Now, in the meantime, Since then, tempers have cooled. They both have accepted some responsibility for the incident. And in a weird tone, though, Chevy Chase has said that, had Belushi and others not gotten in the way, Chevy would have surprised the street tough Bill Murray with an unexpected physical prowess. So I think he believes that he would have whipped some ass. But the two later would work together in Caddyshack just a few years later. And, they had a masterful scene that involved a lot of comedic improv, showing that they could put their differences aside to make some greatness. And now they're cool and shit. But both
I think they
guys,
did a movie together called Caddyshack, right? Were they both? So I think that I'm hoping.
I just fucking said that.
Oh, sorry.
I literally just said that.
Oh, I was just on
I
my
said they
phone
worked
trying to
together in
Google
Caddyshack.
what the movie was
A few
called.
years later, and then you go, then they worked together in a movie called Caddyshack.
Oh, I was just trying
Thanks,
to Google what
jackass.
the name was. Sorry.
Oh shit. But to be fair, both of these guys have been, even though Bill Murray is a national treasure offset, he's been known to be very difficult on set. And same thing with Chevy Chase. They've both been known to be kind of stubborn motherfuckers when it comes to set, and that's just putting it lightly. So who knows who is right and who's wrong here? I do know that being in a high pressure situation like that, you have jealousy working against you, and you have people stirring the pot, which is what happens. That's going to lead to some shit like that. But I will say, to the professionalism of everybody involved, they got into the scuffle, like I said, 2 minutes before Chevy Chase is supposed to do his monologue. And then Chevy Chase went out there just after the fact and did his monologue and did his first sketch. And, apparently Lorne Michaels wasn't too happy with his performance that day because he felt he was kind of losing it. But, considering he had just gotten a fucking fist fight 5 seconds earlier, the fact that he was still able to go out there and do his thing is pretty good, pretty impressive in my opinion. I don't know if I can just go out after getting a fist fight and start popping jokes right away. But that's just me. So anyway,
I've heard from other people that Chevy Chase isn't very nice. He has a huge ego.
yeah, he
So
got
I've
into it.
heard,
His cast members and community were not happy with him a lot. So Joel
yeah,
McHale him a lot too. So
yikes. You know what? If I ever had that level of success, I would never take it for granted. You know what I mean? Like,
fuck yeah.
no way. Anyway, we can do 'em. Well, next up, I have, I've heard things about this director. His name is David O. Russell. Because I remember George Clooney had some things to say about him. I think George Clooney said, like, when you film a picture, like a movie, it might, I feel like saying picture sounds so old school. The pictures. When you film a movie, it's a few months out of your life. And according to George Clooney, David O. Russell really makes it a living hell for his cast and crew, and that
Yeah.
for to have to deal with such a strong personality for a few months out of the year, it's just not worth it to him. So there was a scat on set of this movie called I Heart Huckabees, and this is
Mhm.
between Lily Tomlin, who is an American gem, versus the director David O. Russell. So, I've heard things, and I didn't really think much of it until I heard the videos. This is recorded, so I'm gonna play a little bit of it. And I think that he was asking her to make some choices. From an actor's perspective, we go to a set prepared to make choices, and we may have already made some choices, and we've rehearsed, and then to be like rerouted last minute. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Acting has to come from a place of honesty, and so just throw out last minute details here and there can be a little frustrating for an actor because we do a lot of prep. Does that make sense? So like
Right.
uh I can understand Lily Tomlin's frustration. She's like, everyone's doing different things. Like, this is not what we rehearsed. Like, let me take it back. Just give me a moment. Like you're asking for a lot right now. He just kind of like changes his mind periodically. So let me see if I have a little clip of him screaming at her. Um, let's see. Let's see.
Years, I've got some fucking cunt yell at me in front of the fucking crew when I'm trying to fucking help you, bitch. Figure it out yourself. Well, I have to figure it out. Yeah, fuck yourself. Good. Why don't you fuck your whole movie? For you. Why don't you fuck your whole movie? Because that's what you're doing. Shut up. We better get some insurance against the director.
I mean, you can look it up on your own time, but in this like um screamy match, he called her a fucking bitch, a fucking cunt. He said fuck you, a lot of fuck. So this is definitely not a director that I would want to work with. And I appreciate that Lily Tomlin held her own because she was like, fuck me, how about you fuck your whole movie? That's what you're doing right now. Like she commented like this behavior is not appropriate. So anyway, I think other people might have had similar situations with David or Russell, but it just happened to be one that was recorded. Proof is in the pudding.
Well, you touched up on the George Clooney one, and they worked on a movie together in 1999, Three Kings, and that's the one that I had heard about this director was the George Clooney situation, and George Clooney basically started in the movie being like working with him and being like the guy wrote a tremendous script, so I was excited, like he thought he was a genius, but quickly learned that he has no people skills, and basically he said that he would scream at people all day long, which, as we heard, he's very correct there. But he talked about how the director hit an extra and basically said, and I quote, David wanted one of the extras to grab me and throw me down. This kid was a little nervous about doing it. And David walked out to him and grabbed him. He pushed him onto the ground. He kicked him and screamed, "Do you want to be in this fucking movie?" And then when George Clooney tried to intervene, the director Russell apparently goaded him into a physical fight, grabbed George Clooney by his throat and hit him in the head. And at that point, George Clooney said that he, I quote, went nuts and held onto the director's throat. And I quote, he said, I'd had him by the throat. I was going to kill him. Kill him. Finally, he apologized, but I walked away. So then, he basically, after the incident, he did the movie, but he said, I'll never work with that asshole ever again. And, 25 years later, they still haven't done it. And even his niece accused him of sexual harassment, like this guy.
Boy,
So,
George Clooney, I never met him. I may never meet him. It is what it is. But from what I've heard through the grapevine, he's like a pleasure to work with. So for someone as nice as George Clooney to like get to that level of rage, like
totally.
this guy, Russell had been a total butthead.
Totally. He's a fucking jackass. And I mean, Jesus, how can you talk to Lily Tomlin like that? Like, imagine getting that mad at Lily Tomlin, dude. Like, what the fuck? This guy. Ugh. Anyways.
What can you do? Who's next on your list?
Up next.
I'm excited for this one. This might be my favorite one on this list, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a good
For
one.
lots of reasons.
Hey, yo.
Yeah.
And this happened 2 years before becoming super famous, but this is a fight that I actually had kind of heard about in the pipeline a couple of years ago, but I never really looked into it. But I was very happy to find out it's true. And it's Sylvester Stallone versus Richard Gere. And note, this is again 2 years before Rocky fame. Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere were supposed to work in this movie called The Lords of Flatbush, which is a drama, looking into the lives of these four rebellious young men who face problems of adult life and the ease which they can fall into crime. And like I said, Sly Stallone and Richard Gere were two of the actors in it. However, Richard Gere ended up being fired from this movie after almost coming to blows with Sylvester Stallone. The director was forced to make a choice who he wanted, and he kept Stallone. Now, apparently, the particular incident that he was fired for did happen with between these two, and apparently the original part of Chico, which was played by Perry King, was originally supposed to be played by Richard Gere, but we never hit it off. Said Stallone. He was strutting around in his oversized motorcycle jacket. Actually, I think I have to talk more like, he was strutting around in his oversized motorcycle jacket. Like he was the baddest knight at the round table. Explained Stallone. One day, doing an improv, he grabbed me. We were simulating a fight scene and got a little carried away. I told him in a gentle fashion to lighten up, but he was completely in character and impossible to deal with, continued Stallone. Then we were rehearsing at Coney Island, and it was lunchtime, so we decided to take a break. And the only place that was warm was in the back seat of a Toyota. And I was eating a hot dog, and he climbs in with a half a chicken covered in mustard, with grease nearly dripping out of the aluminum wrapper. And I said, that thing's going to drip all over the place. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. And I said, if it gets on my pants, you're going to know about it. Then he proceeds to bite into the chicken, and a small greasy river of mustard lands on my thigh. I elbowed him in the side of the head. I elbowed him in the side of the head and basically pushed him out of the car. The director had to make a choice. One of us had to go. One of us had to stay. Richard was given his walking papers and to this day seriously dislikes me. And not only that, for years, there has been a long-standing rumor in Hollywood that Richard Gere stuffed a gerbil in his ass. And apparently, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Gere is totally convinced that the person that started this rumor was the one and only Sylvester Stallone. And that's what I call coming around full circle, if you know what I mean. Hey!
Oh, yes, CMO.
But that's about the most Sylvester Stallone story that you could have.
If you stuck a rodent in your butthole, how would you get it to come out?
Well, that's the thing. It never came out. It lives inside there, and it colonized and grew, and now it's part of Richard Gere's talent.
I wonder if you could push it out like a turd at some point.
I feel like that's what you got to do. But here's the thing: how do you get it to go? It has to go willingly, or else it's gonna bite.
I think some rodents like to burrow.
That's true.
I don't know.
Oh God! I just imagine how I'd feel that little hands like open up your little butthole, like, beep, and it just starts going in there. Yeah, no, that would not be for me.
I mean, mice can get into like little cracks, like they can flatten their bodies. So, like,
yeah, but a gerbil is much bigger than a mouse. A gerbil is more like not quite rat size, but more in between. Like in between a rat and a mouse. So, and here's the thing, like, it was convincing enough of a rumor that South Park even did the episode on it.
Yeah.
Remember that episode? So
I do. I do.
Yeah, so it's like well in pop culture rumors. And I mean, at least now with Gen Z, it's I guess until now that we're talking about it, it's kind of been forgotten from the zeitgeist. But yeah, that was such a big rumor that Richard Gere would get asked about this by the press. Like this was like a real question that he would ask. Is it true you stuck a gerbil up your ass? Like it's a bitch. I'm with my family here. Like you asked me this.
Oof.
Anywho,
well,
that was Sylvester Stallone.
Next up, I have a pretty well-known one, and there's a very famous show that had a couple spin-offs, like movie spin-offs, and then finally had like a spin-off series. So the show was called Sex and the City. So every female in the history of women know about this show. And then there's a couple movies, 2 or 3, I think. And then I think 2. And then there was the spin-off called Just Like That. And so I'm referring to the two main actresses in the first series, Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. And they had amazing chemistry on set, but we didn't know until after the show wrapped that there was a lot of tension. And these two girls have both stated that they're not on great terms. So both Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall have like over and over and over denied any sort of like specific like dispute or catfight on set. So they were always professional with each other. But Kim Cattrall has hinted over the years that the cast, specifically Sarah Jessica Parker, just kind of like tolerated her. I think that there was one award show where like the three girls went together or sat together, and Kim Cattrall sat someplace else. And you know, I think it's okay to have a professional relationship, but it is kind of sad to me because, you know, after like so many years of working together, you would think that it would blossom to more of a true friendship because you've been through so much, you
Totally.
know?
Like, it's kind of like the cast of Friends. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah,
all actually all pals. Even the cast of Seinfeld, they all like each other. Like, it's like these girls. Even though I wasn't a fan of the show, I knew their dynamic and like fucking girls. Oh my god, you're such a Miranda or whatever. You know what I mean? That's like their dynamic is what every girlfriend group from the 90s to the early 2000s wanted to be so bad that when you find out, you know, it's like when they say never meet your heroes. It's like
yeah.
when you find out that they all hate each other, you know, it's like, oh, that
Well,
sucks.
Kim Cattrall, um, I I know that they had this spin-off series. It's called And Just Like That. This I don't know if it's still being filmed or if it wrapped. I'm not sure, but I'm not a big not that I'm not a fan. I just never really got into the whole like Sex and the City like phenomena. But uh I think that people were saddened to hear that Kim Cattrall wasn't part of the main cast for And Just Like That, and there was speculation that she turned it down, and then she came out publicly and said, "No one ever offered it to me." So that was kind of upsetting. And I
Ooh.
know that she also had issues with the showrunner. Um, I
Oh,
think his name is Michael Patrick Kelly.
right.
So she did come in for a brief cameo in Just Like That in season 2, but she didn't interact with any cast members or the showrunner. So I think actually in the scene she was talking to them over the phone.
Oh.
And even in
Mhm.
the show, they kind of wrote her off in the spin-off show and said like, they're like, yeah, like she just ended our friendship and just like that, you know. So this all comes to like an intense moment though. I think we might have discussed on the podcast once before, but um Kim Cattrall said that Sarah Jessica Parker was cruel after Kim's, I think her brother passed away, and Sarah Jessica Parker uh, sent some condolences via like Twitter or something, saying sorry to hear about your loss. And then Kim Cattrall wrote, and I quote, "My mom asked me today, when will that at Sarah Jessica Parker, that hypocrite, leave you alone? Your continuous reaching out is a painful reminder of how cruel you really were then and now. Let me make this very clear if I haven't already. You are not my family. You're not my friend. So I'm writing to tell you one last time to stop exploiting our tragedy in order to restore your nice girl persona." End quote. Ooh.
Ooh, that hurt me, dude. Wow.
You know what?
Especially
Here's
because
the thing. Not everyone's gonna like you. You know what I mean? And so, like, quit while you're ahead.
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I would hope that Sarah Jessica Parker meant it. You know, having worked with someone so long, saying, "Listen, like, I know we're not on the best of terms. No one deserves to like bury their siblings. So I'm sorry to hear that." You know,
oh,
so maybe shame on Kim Cattrall for not having more grace with dealing with that,
but man,
unless
to
Sarah
be
Jessica Parker
fair,
really was a raging bitch and deserved that
to
feedback.
be
I don't know.
fair, Twitter had DMs back then. She didn't have to, you know, if Sarah Jessica Parker wanted to reach out to her, she could have done it publicly or privately, not publicly.
True.
Uh, and she chose to put it in a public setting, which kind of, if you think that someone's doing something just to improve their public image, and then they go ahead and, you know, give you this message in the most public way possible, it's got to reinforce that feeling a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when
Totes.
you're going through this tragedy. and you're mourning, you're in grief, you're fucking angry as shit. Because when you lose a sibling like that, that's also something that you deal with is just anger, and then
Mhm.
someone says some dumbass thing or something that you just take out of context because that's what you're going through at the time. You might blow up like that. Uh, so I can see, in my opinion, Sarah Jessica Parker is smart enough and PR savvy enough to know that she would probably get people on her side by doing it publicly, but people skills tell me, man, you gotta do that shit privately. You know what I mean? So I can see it from both points of views. Now I can totally see if she did mean it, and it was just maybe I can't DM her, whatever. We're not friends. I don't know. Then there's more to it, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
You know, I there's a few comics I do not vibe well with, and they know it. I don't care to know them. There's a few people out there that I just don't want anything to do with, and so if I never hear anything nice from them, and then if I experience a tragedy and they make a public statement, to imply that maybe we're closer, that they're a nice person, I think that would irk me. I think I would be like, whoa, 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 whoa! Like you have nothing to say to me any other day of the week. Why now? Why are you gonna reach? I haven't heard from
Totally.
you in a long time. Why do you want to be nice now? Like get off
Totally.
my junk, you know? So I think that I would probably be team Kim Cattrall on this one.
Absolutely, man. And honestly, like when I lost my dad, like I heard from people that I know that he wasn't very fond of because they had fucked him over and shit when he was alive. So now they're all of a sudden like
Mhm.
coming out, and it's like, yeah, like if my dad was me, he would want to still punch you in the face. So it's like, what do you think is different?
Right.
I'm a lot like my dad, and my dad told me everything. You know what I mean? It's like, like read the room, buddy.
That's
So
true.
yeah, people be stupid. But anyways, I have two left to my end, and this next one's a fun one, especially because literally this was caught on film, and you can actually see the clip used in the film. And this is an epic moment between LL Cool J and Jamie Foxx, which happened while filming the awesome football movie with Al Pacino, Any Given Sunday.
Mhm.
Also, Cameron Diaz is in that epic movie, which happened in 1999. And when the guys literally came to blows while filming a scene at Miami's Pro Players Stadium. Apparently, reports indicate that Fox busted LL Cool J's lip, prompted LL Cool J to knock Jamie Foxx the fuck out. And again, you can see the scene in the film, and the incident even prompted the involvement of the Miami-Dade County Police. Uh, During his 2017 appearance on Drink Champs, LL Cool J said on the matter, the real story is that when we were doing the scene, Jamie, although he was experienced somewhat, he was still a little green. I wasn't quite as green, but I was green too. And when we were doing the scene, I was being aggressive with him. But this is character to character, he continued. So he got upset. He said, yo, stop being so rough with me. And that didn't compute. So we did another take, and I was rough with him again. And then I don't know why, but he thought it was a good idea to punch me in my face. And this wasn't scripted. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. You want me to keep it 100? I'm going to keep it 100. This is all quotes. He punched me in my face. So I look at him after he punched me in my face, and I said, why'd you do that? And he said, look. And he was turned to the side in a fighting stance. He had his helmet on. And he was turned to the side, and he said, I told you before, don't put your hands on me. Period. So again, this is all I quote. Yo, when he said that, my left hand grabbed the face mask, and as I was pulling his helmet off, my right hand was punching his chin. This was like pow, and then he was laying there, and I thought he was faking because he was asleep. I thought he was faking, and then LL Cool J makes it clear that Jamie Foxx was out cold. Jamie Foxx, of course, disputes that LL Cool J knocked him out. However, a cast member who was there has corroborated LL Cool J's side of the story. But Jimmy Fox says that guy, he's like a Charlie Murphy type guy, just a really good storyteller and whatnot. He's like, I find the way he told the story funny, but it's not completely accurate. Jimmy Fox very much denies that LL Cool J knocked him out. But to be fair, LL Cool J is a big motherfucker.
I was gonna say,
And
yeah, like he can throw a punch, I'm sure.
yes, he's large. He's an athlete. And no, this all started too. The two kept going to each other. Apparently, Jamie Foxx actually played football, and again, they're doing a movie playing football, and he kept asking LL Cool J, "Oh, were you even an athlete? Did you play football and shit?" And LL Cool J would respond like, "I got signed when I was 14 years old. I didn't have time to play football. I was out selling arenas out. What were you doing? You were buying my records when you were in eighth grade. So." It was like that type A personality of who's the man was both of them goading each other. But yeah, I'm gonna say Jamie
Mama
Foxx.
said knock you out.
Yep, exactly. I love you, Jamie Foxx, but between LL Cool J and Jamie Foxx, I'm gonna take LL Cool J
Oh my
any
gosh,
day of
of course,
the
he's a
week.
legend.
Any day of the week. And in a fight, like I don't know, maybe it's entertainment, maybe it's a toss up. They're both real good. But in a fight, LL Cool J is a monster. And Jamie Foxx, no offense to you, but like sure you're an athletic guy, but I don't think you can just overpower L Cool J like that. I think L Cool J, and again you can see it on tape, and you see Ella hits him, and he goes down, and it's whew, it looked like he was out to me. That's just me.
If LL Cool J hit me, whether I was out cold or not, I'm not getting back up
No, fuck no.
because that's a fight I couldn't win.
Yeah, he's a big
Even
dude.
on PCP, I don't think I could win it.
Yeah, let's see. He is how big is Al Cool J? Why doesn't it say? Oh, 6'2". 6'2", 200 pounds. And Jamie Foxx is 5'9", and doesn't say his weight. Yeah, it just says he's 5'9". Yeah, no way. Sorry, dude. And like, I'm taking down some 6-footer guys, and I'm 5'8" myself, but they weren't LL Cool J. So I'm still gonna take LL on this one.
LL Cool J
But
was such a beast, and I was so because I used to listen to his music when I was a kid, and I was so excited to see his like movie career take off because I think he was on like that shark movie. I forget,
yes,
Deep Blue
Deep Blue
Sea.
Sea. He was the man in that.
Yeah, so like
His
he,
parrot.
he's such a cool just I guess like
He
celebrity figure.
single-handedly broke the streak of the black guy dying first in the movie, because in Deep Blue Sea, it looked like he was going to be the first one to go, and then nope, the shark eats his parrot, and he actually kills the shark, and then you think he's dead, but then he pops up later and say hello, bitches, and he makes it all the way to the very end. So I think he was the first
Spoiler
black.
alert!
Yeah,
That poor parrot.
I think he's the first black guy in that late '90s time frame to survive till the end of the movie and not die first. So very progressive. Deep Blue Sea. I like it. Anyways,
All right. So for my
we,
last one, this
yeah,
I'm gonna bring you guys back to some like Hollywood history. This is a huge feud that went on for years, and then its like ultimate moment was when these two actors just starred together in a little known movie called "Whatever Happened to Baby Jane," and this is regarding Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. This was such an intense feud that there was a mini series made out of it with Jessica Lange playing Joan Crawford and Susan Sarandon playing Betty Davis. And it was based off a real story, you know. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a history of their relationship in like 5 minutes or less. So I'm gonna fly through this. So there was a lot of like tabloid coverage regarding their feud, and you know a lot of the producers wanted to get these two together because they just knew that with all like the publicity around their like feud, that it would really sell some tickets for these movies. You know,
right.
I know that Betty Davis one time said like these like old school like Hollywood like comebacks were amazing. They're so ruthless. She said that Joan Crawford slept with every male star at MGM except for Lassie. um, so in 1933, uh, Warner Brothers planned an elaborate publicity campaign, and I got this all from Harper's Bazaar. So they planned this like elaborate publicity campaign to announce Betty Davis's new phase of stardom, and it was overshadowed when on the same day when Joan Crawford announced that she was divorcing her first husband on the same day. So the New York Times uh, relegated Davis's film to a small paragraph in the review section while devoting several pages to Crawford's news, and other papers followed suit. So what was going to be a big moment that they had planned for a long time for Betty Davis ended up being overshadowed by this, divorce scandal.
Wow.
So in later news, so that might have just been a coincidence. Who knows? Who knows? But in later news, in 1935, 2 years later, Betty Davis starred in this movie called Dangerous, and she fell in love with her co-star named Franchit. I don't know how to pronounce his name. How do you think it's pronounced? Franchat? Is it French?
That one's got me.
Francho, I don't know. So she fell in love with him, and she said, and I quote, "I fell in love with him professionally and privately. Everything about him reflected his elegance from his name to his manners." But unfortunately, Joan Crawford got to him first, and they announced their engagement during the filming of this movie. So Betty Davis said he was madly in love with her. They met each day for lunch. He would return to the set, his face covered in lipstick. He was honored this great star was in love with him. I was jealous, of course. Uh, Crawford, meanwhile, is quoted saying that that her fiance at the time thought Betty Davis was a good actress, but he never thought of her as a woman. So it's just a lot of like Hollywood shade. So anyway, later Joan Crawford had her heart set on like the main role of this film called Mildred Pierce, and uh, she finally got her wish when Betty Davis, who was the studio's first choice, turned it down. Um, Director Michael Curtiz was very reluctant to cast Joan Crawford, but finally um, caved after seeing her screen test. And so this is what won Joan Crawford her first and only Oscar, which
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever heard this, but she was like done up real nice, and she was laying in bed when she got her Oscar, and it was filmed, and it was a big like whatever some
Wow.
publicity stunt. In 1950, there was some drama called Caged, and Warner's Brothers wanted to cast both Davis and Crawford in it, but Betty Davis refused to sign on opposite Crawford, calling the film a dyke movie. And there's all these rumors going around that Joan Crawford was just in love with Betty Davis, and Joan Crawford historically had relations with men and women. She was just a big hoe, you know. Um,
Got it.
so Let's see. And then in 1952, there was this movie called Star that was written about like Joan Crawford. So there was a movie, there's this I think this was written by an ex-colleague or friend of Joan Crawford, and it was a retaliation after a big falling out. And so Betty Davis was cast to kind of play this Joan Crawford type character. It was mean, but she jumped at the opportunity to sign on to this project. 10 years later, there was this big movie called the Baby Jane. It was, what was it called again? The is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Mhm.
And uh, Betty Davis agreed to sign on two conditions: that she played the title role of Jane, like the main character, and that the film's director was not sleeping with Joan Crawford, because she had a tendency to sleep with all these like big time people. Um, so she didn't want him favoring Joan Crawford, because that's happened in the past supposedly. So it was on the set of Baby
Okay,
Jane.
I get it. You got to get your close-ups. I get it.
Yeah, totes. So there's on set of Baby Jane that there's a lot of like tit for tat going on between these two. And so, for example, Joan Crawford was on Pepsi's board of directors because her late husband was a Pepsi executive. And so she had a Coke machine installed in Betty Davis's dressing room just to spite her. And there was one scene where baby Jane Bette Davis's character has to beat Joan Crawford. So Joan Crawford requested a body double because she didn't trust Betty Davis to not hit her for real, and she was proved right because during a close-up in which a body double could not be used, Betty Davis hit her hard. And then there was another scene where Joan Crawford got her payback. So apparently Betty Davis had like these back issues, and there's a scene where she had to drag Joan Crawford's character out of her, like she was wheelchair bound in the movie, so she had to drag her like limp body. And Joan Crawford made herself as heavy as possible, filling her pockets with rocks, wearing weightlifter's belts, and just making herself dead weight, so that Betty Davis would really struggle with dragging her, and they had to take the take over and over and over again because Joan Crawford was just being a bitch and was not really cooperating, knowing it was hurting Betty Davis's back. Okay,
Wow.
so
And note actually on the in the last take where you said that when in the scene when they couldn't use a stunt double, and she didn't trust Davis not to hit her for real, and she did hit her for real. The reports claim that it was hard enough to require stitches,
yeah,
though Betty Davis was like insisted that I barely touched her, which is like
yeah.
the pettiest answer as she wipes the blood from her knuckles. So these two fucking like goddamn. But anyways, go
So
on.
this is the most cattiest thing, but that year Betty Davis got nominated for Best Actress Oscar. And Joan Crawford didn't get any nomination, nothing. So
Wow.
Betty Davis was like the favorite, and so her career catapulted again and kind of overshadowed like Joan Crawford in this situation. So at the Oscars, everyone assumed that Betty Davis was going to win. But some of the other actresses that were nominated were not able to attend this ceremony. So Joan Crawford, having won in the past, she volunteered to accept the award on behalf of whomever that might not be there. And so when they're expecting to call Betty Davis, they actually called another actress, Anne Bancroft. And so then Joan Crawford went up to accept the Oscar on behalf of Anne Bancroft. And it was a big blow to Betty Davis, who should have taken this Oscar home. So she, out of spite, grabbed this Oscar and then took lots of pictures with this Oscar and all the other Oscar winners, as a blow to Betty Davis, who didn't win that year. So um, because Joan Crawford was a bit older, she passed away, and Betty Davis was quoted saying that you should never say bad things about the dead. You should only say good. So Joan Crawford is dead. Good. That's like a quote that she would say a lot.
Oh,
And
man.
it's
Burn.
it is interesting because both these women have a lot more in common than like they probably thought because Joan Crawford's adopted daughter wrote a tell-all book that became a movie called Mommy Dearest, which is a cult classic. And
Yep.
so that was horrible. And Betty Davis was like, we didn't get along, but I respected her talent, and I would never want a book like that written about me. And then later on, I think after she passed away, her daughter wrote a book about her about being an abusive alcoholic, like
Ooh.
crazy pants. But the public, in response to that, defended Betty Davis, but didn't really defend Joan Crawford. So that is the feud, one of Hollywood's biggest feuds in the history of Hollywood. And I also think there's a lot because I think maybe I could be wrong, but I think Joan Crawford was MGM and Betty Davis was Warner Brothers Studios. So I feel like a lot of it was fueled because the studios were in competition, and
Oh,
of course, like tabloids wanted to jump on this, and so I don't know
40
how much
plus
of it
year old
was.
dude. Good lord. Like,
So
goddamn.
yeah, I'm not sure how much of it was just them being complete bitches, as much as it was just like tabloids jumping in on it too. But that's
That's
that in a few minutes or less.
wow. I did not know just how deep that feud went, man. That was crazy. Okay,
So
John.
what's your number one feud?
Well, my number one feud, you took us to the past. I'm bringing you guys back to the present because this feud is currently ongoing and taking a lot of the headlines. And it's going to end up in court because there's quite a lot of lawsuits going back and forth between both parties. And this is Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. And note, like I said, this one is still ongoing uh, at this very time, but it all started with them working this little movie called It Ends With Us, which is a movie that is supposedly has to deal with a lot of domestic violence and things like that. So it's a very serious movie, and that these two were trying to shine a light to this in order to help women. But unfortunately, their ensuing feud has instead taken up all the spotlight to the point where I don't really think the average person knows what the fuck this movie's about, and more than they know that it's just led to the feud. So here's a quick breakdown of things. Uh, According to Blake Lively, she, in her lawsuit, she claims that Baldoni and others involved in the film engaged in inappropriate behavior, including repeated sexual harassment and other
Ooh.
disturbing behavior. She claims that Justin Baldoni added like extra kiss scenes that she wasn't consulted about or made aware about, and that she didn't have time to review things with a intimacy coordinator on set. Now, she also alleges that after she raised concerns about the alleged misconduct, Baldoni and his production company, Wayfair Studios, orchestrated a social manipulation campaign to damage her reputation. And the New York Times later reported that Baldoni's public relations team allegedly planned to bury Lively's story and portray her negatively in the media. Since then, though, Justin Baldoni has filed a countersuit against Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds and others, accusing them of defamation and extortion. In fact, he argues, and he apparently has text messages to prove this, that the whole thing about the sexual harassment is bullshit, and that Blake Lively not only was offered to meet with an intimacy coordinator about these kiss scenes, but that she chose not to. And he says that the text message showed that she literally said, "Nope, I'm cool with it. Let's just run it live on set." And he's saying, "No, I think you should review these things. We're adding these changes to these scenes. And now it's going to be kissing. I think that you should review it with the intimacy coordinator to make sure we're all on the same page." And she says, "No, I don't have time for it. Don't worry. I'm sure it's all cool. See you tomorrow," type thing. Uh, and then, so, it's a little he said, she said. I don't know who to believe in the situation. But then he also says that Ryan Reynolds defamed him in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie with the character Nice Pool, which, as we see, he has, his little like long hair ponytail thing.
Hmm.
He's like super respectful to women and cares about women stuff, but it's all done in a like disingenuous type of way. And so apparently that's spoofing Justin Baldoni and saying that all the stuff of him be actually giving a fuck about women's rights is all bullshit. So he's accusing them of defamation. There is no end in sight for this. All I know is that they were both trying to hurt each other, but I don't see anybody coming positive from this because it doesn't matter who you believe, then they're both assholes. If you believe one side or the other, or you believe both of them, they both come out as assholes. So we'll have to keep you posted as to the result of the lawsuits. But unless you've been living under a rock for the last few months, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni have been all over the place. And even so, it was referenced during the SNL 50 show when Ryan Reynolds, who had Blake Lively sitting right next to him, he stands up, and it was Tina Fey and Amy Poehler like, "Hey, Ryan Reynolds, what's going on? How are you?" And his response was, "Good. Why? What did you hear?" And it's obviously referencing these lawsuits. So we shall see where they go, but these are pretty petty. And note, someone like Blake Lively accusing someone like Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment alone is something that could end your career. So
Totally. But it is not good though that she had like a mean girl moment, that this interview surfaced between, it was like her and Parker Posey being interviewed by this woman who claimed that she wanted to give up journalism after the interview because Blake Lively and Parker Posey were mean girls and like just talked amongst themselves. And apparently this woman was like, congratulations on your little baby bump, and Blake Lively was like, congrats to you too on your little bump. And the woman unfortunately was actually like barren. She's infertile, and it was like a bad comeback. And the woman was like, "Did you guys enjoy wearing all like the beautiful clothes in the film?" And then Blake Lively was like, "That's interesting you asked that, because I don't think you would ask a man that." And like they were just super confrontational. And this poor woman was like, "I can't win." So
she was so passive aggressive about it too.
Such a bitch. And people were like, "Well, she's pregnant. She was uncomfortable." Like, no, man, you can't be like that.
Yeah, the stories keep coming out about her being a condescending asshole. Meanwhile, nothing aside from what she is saying about Justin Baldoni keeps coming out at him.
Mhm.
So I am kind of team Justin in this. When all the allegations first came out, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like on her side a little bit, and then he came out with his side of the story. And once I was given all the information, and you see how she tends to be pretty bitchy outside, at least in the time she gets to shine. I gotta say, I'm gonna go with Team Justin for now. But note, like I said, there's still a lot into this. We don't know how this is gonna net out, so we might switch teams later on. CMO did in college, and he turned out fine. So give us time.
Yeah.
We'll see how this nets out when it's all over. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, that was our list of the top 10 greatest celebrity feuds that happened on set right here at the Frat Chat Podcast. And yeah, you see, these led to blows, these led to lawsuits, these led to knockouts, these led to chicken sandwiches, staining shirts, and potentially gerbils going up asses. So there was a lot of consequences to this list. However, again, if we missed anything, shoot us an email, fratchatpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you give us a follow on all social channels at Frat Chat Podcast. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, you name it. We're all over the place. And in the meantime, make sure you give me a follow as well. Check out my website, carlosgarciacomedy.com. Check out my Instagram, my socials, everything. Carlos Does the World. That's Facebook, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. Carlos Does the World on Twitter/X. And last but not least, make sure you check out my good buddy CMO over there as well. Chris.Moore.comedy on TikTok and Instagram. And CMore Comedy on Twitter/X. And if you see him on Grindr, swipe right. He's ready for you. And in the meantime, Mr. Mo, it's time to roll. So why don't you get that gerbil out and please get us out of here?
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
And I second. Oh, yeah. All right, you guys, of course, we'll be back next week for another edition of the greatest podcast in the history of podcasts and time. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to. It's the Frat Chat Podcast. See ya.
Peace.